Hope everyone is doing fine. Hope everyone enjoyed their Easter. So, depending on where you're watching me on Instagram, it's a little bit harder to see the screen because the resolution is just so small. But on YouTube, if you can jump on there, then you can see a lot better of the stuff that I'm going to go over today. Hopefully, everyone is doing okay. I wish everyone a happy belated Easter. A lot went on. Pope Francis died. So I'm not Catholic, but I want to be respectful there because he's the biggest symbol in the Catholic Church. I know a lot of people were extremely upset about that, so my condolences there. Okay, let's dive in. Let's start talking about where we are, and let's talk about just certain stock market conditions, right? First and foremost, looks like Ethereum and Bitcoin actually are holding up quite well in the market. Provided that everything, like on Monday, we sold off 4%, right? We sold off 4%. Ethereum and Bitcoin seems like they're holding a pretty interesting threshold. A couple weeks ago, I did come on and I mentioned that I was interested in buying Ethereum if we got back down to 1600. I actually did. So I already bought some of this. I will buy a little bit more if we trade back down to 1300. That's Ethereum. With Bitcoin, I'm not a Bitcoin buyer yet. I would be a Bitcoin buyer. These were some of the areas that I mentioned. So I mentioned on Bitcoin, I mentioned 76,000. I mentioned all the way back down to 67. And then I said around 55 is where I was interested in buying a couple things. So I'm not a Bitcoin proponent right quite yet, but I'm already allocated in Ethereum. Okay, so let's talk about Qs and SPY. I know everyone is interested to see what we have going on there. We have a 1% bounce off of futures from yesterday. Let's get rid of this. We have a 1% bounce. Let's look at this under a microscope, shall we? Okay, so 4-hour time frame. What story does this tell? The rally that we had from 485 up to 550, right? It was a huge rally. It was very, very big. But right, it wasn't really sustained. So we gave up about 50% of that. So my little trick, and I've been teaching everyone this trick because it works quite well. You want to look for the 5 and the 21 cross. So let me see if you guys can see the resolution here on Instagram. So the 5 and the 21 cross is basically this moving average here tied to this moving average. If you want to use something a little bit more, I would say not as laggy, you can use an advanced moving average, which will work as well. An advanced moving average is just going to lag a little bit less. Or you can use something called a Hull, or you can use something called a DEMA. So double moving average, which is just, it just shows you the moving average. Instead of 2 lines, it will be just 1 line. It's a little bit more responsive. Cool. So for right now, I don't really see a lot of momentum for the short term, despite the fact that we do see a 1% bounce on futures, right? So futures are up. Let's just see real quick. Futures are up. Marginally, right? Maybe about 1%. But for the sell-off that we saw yesterday, doesn't really warm my heart. Doesn't fill me with fuzzy feelings. So we did get a bounce yesterday, right? So let's check out this 10-minute bounce. So we did bounce off of this level right here. Actually, 430 was one of my target levels for lower. I did take a short position yesterday. I made 270 points on the short. The reason why I took the short is just because I'm using the CVD and I'm using the TTM, right? Those are things that coincide very well with my trading strategy. So if I'm looking at this, you know, I'm just looking at it. I was like, this is not the most difficult trade for us to have taken, right? And if you're looking at the moving averages as well, I think that we saw a pretty decent cross right at market open. Let's just check that out on the 10-minute. Well, you had the cross right here, but you saw continuation. So I did mention yesterday that there was some continuation here to the downside. If you use the 10-minute time frame, you didn't notice the cross. But what I'm talking about right here is just a very simple strategy. A lot of you guys have been asking me about not a theoretical concept, but something that is actually back testable. The 5 and the 21 cross. I know that most of you don't use that. You're using 9 and 13, 9, 21. That's fine. That's fine. It's going to lag a little bit. I am using different components. This is not the only part of my trading system. There's a couple of other parts to it. But basically speaking, just the overall cross happened what? It happened the prior weekend, right? It happened Friday at close. But that continuation was sustained. So I believe off the 5-minute time frame, you would have got a little bit of a better sense, right? We never actually overcame that 21. So all you had to do was just take that short position and you ride it until you get tagged right here, right? Very, very, very simple strategy. But if you follow it, if you actually follow the strategy, you can catch trends. It is definitely possible for you to catch trends, okay? All right, let's move on here to QQQ. What do we have in terms of support? In my opinion, you crossed the 5 and the 21 yesterday. So I did not catch the long position. I should have, right? I actually should have, because when I was on live explaining all my positions, I got the signal and I decided not to take it, which was a big mistake. Huge, huge, huge mistake. I could have caught a nice run. But what do we have right now for Qs? In terms of where we are on, let's use the 15-minute time frame. I don't really love the 5-minute time frame so much, but the 15-minute time frame, in my opinion, if we pull back into this area right here, I think we have something, okay? I think we have something to trade off of. Right now, the 5-day crowd is still holding above the 21 EMA crowd. So your area of interest for some continuation, I'm probably going to be day trading. Well, I've been day trading every single day. So I've literally been day trading every day. But that's nor here nor there. We'll discuss that more as things develop. I've been asked to just keep it under wraps for a little bit until we have something a little bit more concrete. So I'll talk about that maybe in about a couple weeks when everything is more finalized. But anyway, what would be my target area? My target area to the top side would be 440. Okay, it's literally going to be 440. So what am I looking for on the shorter time frames? On the 5-minute time frame, all I want is to get above this resistance here at 438. Now notice, right? I really, really want you to pay attention to this. It's all about this right here. That 21 should be your momentum. It's your momentum indicator. There are better ones than the 21 EMA, right? There are a lot better ones, right? There's at least 5 of them that I can think of. You can use something called a HULL, right? HULL. I know that Shane's been talking about that on Instagram, and honestly, it is a magnificent suggestion. The HULL indicator, this is how it looks and this is how it works, right? It literally is a band that a little bit more responsive. As you can see, the HULL is being used here. It's a little bit more responsive, and it's going to give you better trend information, I would say. So that trend information is translated, and it works very similarly to any other trend indicator, but the math behind it is quite simple, actually. It's really not that complicated. If you guys are interested in any HULL indicator, all you got to do is go into, here it is. There's one by, I believe, Silco. Silco is, I think, one of the most popular ones. So yeah, Silico, and then you just have the basic one, which is right here by Mohammed 982. This one is very simple. It's just a line. But I think this is one of the most popular ones. So the whole sweep by Silco or Silico, whatever, it's a very good indicator. It really, really is. So this is what it looks like. I have mine just a little bit more sensitive because I like catching moves earlier, but this gives you a really, really good sense on if you're following the trend throughout the day or not. This is how I've been doing it. I've literally been using a very simple trend indicator. Well, actually, I use 2 of them. So I use 2 calculations in order to hold that trend throughout the day and have the confidence to hold on to it or not. This was a little bit late. The way that I do my settings is I go in here. Instead of doing a length of 55, I'm usually doing a length of 10. So notice how we're a little bit more responsive on the whole indicator. You see what I'm saying? So this right here, more responsive. If I'm using the 15-minute time frame, I don't have to be on every single little candle, but it does hug the turns quite well. It really, really does hug the turns quite well. So a little bit better and more responsive, I would say, than just the regular EMAs. I do like the 5 and 21. Obviously, I've always used them, but I've found, statistically speaking, when I backtest HULL and when I backtest the 5 and the 21, I get a little bit better data, all right? So let's go back here to QQQ. Those are some of the things that I was looking for. Top side would be up here, and then low side is going to put us at 531-ish, 533-ish, all right? Let's talk about SPY. I don't trade SPY per se, but I do trade ES. So ES, of course, is going to be the same thing, right? We don't really have to over-engineer this. Back down here at 514, and then top side is going to put me at 530. 530 is going to be my target, right? If I do take a trade, which I should have, I really should have taken this trade. I don't know why. I really don't know why I didn't take that, because the candle right there was pretty clear. If we do trade back down into that area, I'm looking for the gap fill all the way back down here. right? I'm not sure that's going to happen, not going to happen. More than likely, it will happen after Tesla earnings, right? I know you guys want to hear me talk about Tesla, so I will. I definitely will here in just a second. That's what I'm waiting for, okay? I'm waiting for a nice swing on ES or NQ so I can catch a really, really nice futures trade. Yesterday, the futures trade that I caught was 270 points, right? It wasn't luck. I didn't get lucky yesterday. It was purely strategy. It really, really was strategy. So my strategy just permitted me to hold on to the position with a little bit more confidence. So I literally took it right at that candle. And then I took it off at about 270 points. So that was NQ. So what do we got right now for just a couple other indexes? I haven't signaled or I haven't taken anything fresh or new. Yesterday, I spent about half an hour talking to everyone about not buying into the market quite yet, specifically Tesla, right? I really, really, really don't want to be buying into Tesla. I don't think that their earnings is going to be I don't think that there's anything really that's going to be there. So let's talk about the 4-hour time frames and the positive or negative expectancy, right? These are important concepts that need to be discussed in trading, and we're going to talk about that today. Obviously, everyone wants to buy into Tesla. Everyone and their mother, every trading group out there, CNBC, MSNBC, Bloomberg, every other group, trading Discord, every professional trader, all of them want to know what's going to happen with Tesla going forward. So in terms of positive expectancy, you more than likely want to see that overcome the 250 area. I said that we were going to break below 250 a couple weeks ago. I mean, here we are, right? So 250 is the area to beat, in my opinion. This is the daily time frame. Notice where the 21-day moving average is, right? That 21, actually, that's the 50. I'm so sorry. Let me change it to the 21, my bad. I thought that 21 was a little high. All right, so the 21-day moving average is right about 250. So what do we need to do? On the 5 and the 21, we need to overcome that, okay? So overcoming that, if we can get that, if we have fairly decent earnings report and we don't have too much of an abysmal catalyst, then there's a possibility that you might get a short-term rally, right? You got a huge rally here front running the election, for sure, right? Everyone remembers this because we actually caught this collectively as a group, right? But I'm not really expecting too much of that. I'm going to look at data here in just a second, but overall, if we can get above 250, my projected area for us to hit some resistance and then break above resistance is going to be 270 to approximately 280. Now, let me give you my actual opinion. My actual opinion is that we trade back down to $170. So that is a huge target lower. I know that, right? I 100% understand that. But unless we get back down here, provided that report, because the report is going to mean everything. The report was revised almost $6.5 billion lower, right? I was talking about this during Power Hour session yesterday. So I was just reading a couple of reports, not just Yahoo Finance. I read more than one report on both sides of the aisle. I like to listen to different opinions, even though they clash. So Google is going to be huge. I'll talk about Google here in a second. But Tesla also is going to be, it's going to be a true indication of what specifically this EV company is looking to do maybe for the next year and a half. I know that Cathie Woods thinks that Tesla is going to be trading at 1,000, 1,500, right? That's going to put us at a valuation almost $4 trillion. I don't see that. I don't see how that pathway is clear. So just slightly higher than 21.3 billion reported a year ago. Tesla expectation for Q1 revenue is 21.43. So there's not really a lot of growth expected in the company. In my opinion, as an investor and as someone that has been doing this for just a little while, I don't really see exactly in what scenario this pops for earnings. I really don't see it. All right. It might happen, but it would be on hot air. Basically, it would be on hot air. There's no value proposition. That's what I'm trying to say. So back down, if I can give you an intermediate level, it's going to be 190. And then below 190, I'm looking to do a grab closer to 170. I have a bigger target on Tesla. I had this target on Tesla for a while now, but I would like to see them at around 140. 140, I would probably pick up Tesla shares again. The last time that we traded at 140, I took this at 180, and then I rode that up. I literally took this exact trade. So where you see the 5 and the 21 cross, that's where I bounced, right? That's pounced, not bounce. That's where I pounced on this trade. I want to do something very similar. So I'm not going to be using the weekly time frame. That would be ridiculous. No one uses the weekly to take an entry, but we do use the 4-hour time frame for sure. Right? We religiously use the 4-hour time frame. So those are some of the things that I'm going to be watching. I know you guys want to look at the order flow on this, so I'm going to share with you the order flow. Those of you that are still on, you're probably going to see this a little bit better on YouTube. So if you're on Instagram, please bear with me. Let's check out. Here we are. So let's just refresh this. So let me be fair on both sides. There were calls that came in towards the end of the day, and there is a good pocket of calls at 225, right? So don't let my opinion cloud my judgment. I'm very good about this actually. Very well aware of my my bias. So my bias obviously is to the short side. I recognize that. But let's see how many orders are actually there confirming that it is a short side bias or not. So these two orders give you a net negative, and then you have more of a net negative added here. And then you have about $2 million on the 240 and then 250 strike. Cool. So a little bit lower. Let's see what we got. On your daily volume, it looks like it's pretty equal. And then your daily open interest looks like a little bit more pick me up on the short side as opposed to the long side. You guys can see this on Instagram, right? Yeah, yes, you can. Going a little bit further down, let's just see. All right, so I would say that there's more of a pocket, more of a dense collection of puts around May, right? Around my birthday. So about $20 million worth of short positions on Tesla. I'm going to tell you now, it's not that much. It's really, really not a dense concentration of puts. It's not. I've seen so much more than this. So now let's look at live flow here. I did see puts coming in on Tesla yesterday, but I really, really haven't seen a large accumulation of any such I mean, $18 million. I've seen 200, 250. I've seen $400 million accumulated on Tesla. So it's not really there. It's not really there. I can't confirm and say we are definitely going to be selling off or we are definitely going to be popping, right? I've been trading earnings for a long time, guys. So when I'm looking at data like this, I want something to be affirmative. I want something to be 100% confirmed, which doesn't exist, right? It just doesn't exist in trading. But so far, if we trade lower, I don't know if I'm all that interested in Tesla this time around. I'm more interested in Apple. I'm more interested in Google. I'm more interested in Nvidia. So Nvidia broke the threshold of 100 once again. So we did this maybe about a week ago, breaking below the $100 threshold. Yes, I am interested in getting into Nvidia, but as I've stated, it's going to be between $75 to $85. I'm waiting for this magical 88 support dollar level to finally give up. So I'm only $10 away from that. So going back to Tesla. Right? I really don't see a whole bunch of short orders come in. This is going to change by the end of the day. By the end of today, I'm going to be on for Power Hour. I will discuss this. Probably I'll take a trade on Tesla. More than likely, it's going to be a short. But if the orders don't support, a heavy, a short order flow, then I'm not entirely sure that I will take the position, right? So the expected move on Tesla is anywhere between 6 to 8%. It might be a little bit more. The implied volatility might be more. But overall, I don't see the heavy concentration of puts that I think everyone is expecting to see. That's what I'm trying to say. All right. Next, let's go to Google and let's see how much time I have. I have about another 10 minutes. Give me 5 minutes here and then I'll open up the floor for you guys to ask me questions. What do we have on Google? So Google is going through this antitrust lawsuit. Actually, it's more monopolization lawsuit, right? So we'll see. We'll see if the tariffs are ultimately going to affect their ad revenue, right? That particular part of their business. Because if they're submitting to revenues that are international, which of course, Google's business is 77% ad revenue, right? I don't know if you guys knew that, but it is literally what Google is. It's an ad company. I don't think that that's going to necessarily affect their Q1 earnings, but it might affect Q2. I think it's going to be a little bit more apparent. So what do we have in terms of levels? Levels on Google puts us at 130 to 135. So that will put us precariously perched right about there, right? So 130, 135. We trade back down to that area. Very likely I will be buying more into Google, right? This is no surprise at all. So really those are the two titans that I'm looking at. I've given you my opinion on Tesla. I think Tesla trades a lot lower, but that's just my opinion, right? It's just an opinion. It really is just an opinion. I have no idea what it does. And then Google, my positive to negative expectancy is Google falls flat back down to 140. So I do have an expectation of Google trading back down to 140, 142. So that would be the support area. We're not on the right side of the V quite yet. So the 5 hasn't overcome the 21 at all. Not at all. And then positive expectancy would put us at about $160. So anywhere between an $8 to $12 move to the upside. All right. Those are the two stocks that obviously need to be pointed out more than anything else. So maybe about a 5% move to the upside on Google. And if not, how much of a downside risk do I have? About a 6% downside risk from where we are here. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about any stocks that I went over? I'd be more than glad to comment on anything, or maybe you're interested in a stock, or maybe you want me to go over something. I'd be more than glad to talk that over, guys. Let's see what NQ and SPY is doing, just in case no questions roll in. All right, so Qs are actually going. Let's look at NQ. I'm so mad at myself that I didn't take this trade. I'm really, really pissed. So I got a short signal here, and now I'm getting a long signal driving. What time is it? 9 o'clock? I usually take my positions anywhere between 7:30 to 9:30, right? 9:30 is when we get all the volume kick in. But let's see what we have. There's not a lot of momentum. You're starting to get a slope right here. See what I'm talking about? And this is off the 15-minute time frame. Let's check out what the 5-minute is doing. Oops, my bad. Yeah, this is why I don't like the 5-minute time frame. It can be very noisy. It can be a lot of flip-flopping. So here you got some directionality, but I much rather trade the 15-minute. The 15-minute is just so much cleaner. And this is what the whole looks like, right? I was just talking about this. This is just that one indicator. That one indicator is quite precise. If you set it at a 10-day setting or just a 10-range setting, it is quite precise. It follows price action without lagging too much. It's going to lag 1, maybe 2 candles, but it's quite efficient at you taking a trade and then following a trend, right? It is quite efficient. Do I see Tesla going up at all? No, I don't. I don't see in a perfect world, I don't really see it going up. There's no reason. They're losing market share. They were revised on expectations 22% lower. They're losing, or they're expected to lose almost $7 billion from quarter 4 to quarter 1. Where is the positive expectancy? Where do you see company growth? Where do you see good positive news for that company? You might see it with some maybe within a year, 2 years with some of the technology that they have rolling out, but I don't see it here for the short term. I definitely don't see it for the short term. CBD, what is that? It's CVD. So C as in couch, V as in Viper, and D as in Delta. So it's called cumulative volume delta. It is an extremely important indicator. It tells you cumulative volume delta information. So I know that it sounds complicated, but it's not. It's this indicator right here. It just tells you exactly the directionality based on volume delta. So delta, function of change, and then volume, if there's a lot of it or not a lot of it. So that means if you get a kick, right? If you get a kick in one direction, you guys can't see. You can only see this on YouTube. But if you get a kick in one direction and then you keep on accumulating, right? It adds on top of the last candle. So it tells you information real time, right? This is actually an extremely, extremely low latency indicator, extremely low latency. It tells you real time exactly how much volume is within each candle. So I use this religiously. Whenever I'm looking for a trade, if I don't see that price action is seeing continuation, or if we're getting absorption, right? If a candle right here is being absorbed, I have a tendency of staying in a trade, which is exactly what I did. I stayed in this trade for 3 hours. So I use it extensively. This is a little bit more laggy, right? It gives you more of a broad stroke on the TTM. I know that all of us use TTM, including myself. I use it a lot. But the CVD is more real-time information. This is as real-time as you can get. There is basically not low. There's no latency on the CVD whatsoever, right? It works extremely well for my scalping strategies. Where do you see S&P headed in the next quarter? Actually, that's a very good question. It's all going to depend on tech earnings. I don't expect tech earnings to be horrible. I really don't. Now, where do I expect it? I would expect SPY to trade into the 540 area. I do believe that there's literally millions on top of millions and millions and millions of people that are just waiting to buy into this weakness in the market. So in terms of if you study statistics, if you study history in the stock market, generally people are buying dips at 10, 12% threshold. So we had that on SPY at 20%. So of course I bought into SPY as well. Not SPY, QQQ, my bad. I bought into Qs as well, right? But my entry was not the bottom. For sure it wasn't the bottom. So in terms of expectancy, it all really depends. Are we going to resolve the situation with Powell and Trump? Is that going to be resolved? Because they're bickering at each other. And behind the scenes, they're probably being really, really nasty to one another. Is that going to be resolved? Is the tariff situation going to be resolved? If there is a deal agreement that's reached, let's just say in a month, you can expect SPY to be very close to all-time highs once again, right? Because that's all the market is worried about. Is there headwinds? Yeah, we have some headwinds. Are there recessionary concerns? There's people out there that are calculating a 80% chance of a recession. I think all bets are off if that trade agreement does come to pass. So it really is not necessarily up to the economy per se. I don't necessarily see all the headwinds that people are raging about. I don't necessarily see it. I don't see it yet. If we persist on the tariff situation and the trade war, right? Because we don't just have a trade war with China. We are having trade wars now with Canada, and we're definitely starting to have a trade war here with Mexico as well. If that persists, then I would say that we remain buoyant. I think that we will be, this is just me guessing, guys. There's a buoyancy factor from here all the way up to about 550. So I think that we trade within this range for a very long time. I don't necessarily think that we're going to be trading back down to 420. I think that I don't think that the market is going to permit that. But I would say, realistically speaking, back down to 480, I think that it is a pretty high possibility if we are consistent with our policies as they stand. If the policy goes away or if there is a negotiation that we reach, I actually think that the market can jump in about a week. It can jump about 8 to 15%. That's my opinion. Okay, we've seen it before. We've already seen it. So we had a pause, right? We had a pause and then we had an 11% jump intraday. That was a pause. Imagine if we come to an agreement. That's what my fear is on shorting. Why everyone's asking me, why am I not shorting like crazy? Well, if one day we wake up and all of a sudden there's an agreement or there's another pause or POTUS changes his mind once again, then you're going to be absolutely suffocated with the longs that are coming in. There's very obvious buyers that are just waiting, right? You guys as well. I think all of you are just waiting to buy more, right? You want a better price, which I want as well. But there's obviously buyers just waiting for us to turn the corner. That's my fear on taking short positions. So I stand behind that statement. Anyone else have any questions? I have another 2 minutes on, and then I have to get back to work here. Cool. All right. So remember, if you're interested in our newsletter, we talk extensively about our opinions, and very shortly we're going to be sharing our trades. We're going to be talking about what day trades that we take, and then we're going to be breaking down those day trades. So that's going to be really cool for you guys to start seeing exactly how it is that we navigate the market, why it is we take certain trades, why we don't take certain trades. It's not opinion. It's really not opinion. We're not going into the 10-minute time frame and saying, I kind of like this candle and I'm trying to read the tarot cards. No, we don't do that. No, there's some groups out there that they're reading candlesticks patterns, but it's very subjective. We don't want to be subjective. We want to be mathematical. We want to be quantitative. We want to be, if there's something here, we want to try to filter out, a ranging market. And the way that we do that, it's not that complicated. We're just using the right indicators with the right statistics. So if we have that on our side, we can be pretty accurate, not to the T, but we can be fairly accurate on what our entry is and when we want to hold on to a trade. This is a very good example. This is an extremely, extremely good example about holding on to a trade, but holding on to it because you have every reason to hold on to it. Notice here, right? You held below the 21 moving average. So as soon as you start breaking above that, then you take off your trade, but you would have caught a really nice trend trade here. I catch trend trades all the time. It's very difficult for me not to catch a trend trade, which is why I'm so pissed about this, because this would have been a really nice move for me to catch. I don't know why. I had my head up my ass. All right. So if you guys are trading, right, just be mindful. Don't just pay attention to the candle, but pay attention to the trend information. If that trend information is there, you're going to hold on to winners longer. There are situations where you're in sideways markets. Yeah, for sure. You're going to have a lot of that. That's always going to exist. But use the tools that you have. A lot of these tools are free, right? A lot of it is just educating yourself on how it is that you would hold the position and just watching someone else do it. If you can see someone else do it, then more than likely you're going to be more confident in when you take the position. Cool? Does anyone have any additional questions, or is everyone okay? Okay, let's call it a day, everyone. If you felt like you got something out of today, if you felt that you got 0.5% better, just leave me some feedback. Leave me a thumbs up. I usually like that. Just so we can get some feedback. But if you felt like we wasted your time, also let us know. Just say, hey, Sage, I didn't get anything that you said. Everything that you said, I didn't understand. So either way, just let us know. I'll stick on for another 15 seconds, and then we'll call it a day if there's no other questions. Cool? We'll call it a day from here. Okay, everyone. Enjoy your day, and I will see everyone that's in the Discord. I'll see you a little bit later on today for Tesla earnings.